In this episode, we look at the costumes of Game of Thrones matriarch Olenna Tyrell. Coming up. Welcome back to another episode of Costume Co. If you're new to the channel, I do almost weekly videos analyzing some of your favorite TV shows and movies from a costume perspective. If you want to keep up to date with the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss a thing. In this episode, we look at the costumes of Olenna Tyrell from the HBO series Game of Thrones. Let's get right to it. Warning, there will be major spoilers for all 7 seasons of the HBO series Game of Thrones. Lady Olenna Tyrell was the de facto head of House Tyrell of Highgarden, which was one of the great houses of Westeros, but unfortunately is now officially extinct with Olenna's death. The Tyrells had ruled over the Reach from their castle seat in Highgarden, and I mentioned in another video that while the Lannisters dress in red, like the Capulets in Romeo and Juliet, the Tyrells, who are a rival family although formally allies with the Lannisters, dress in blues and teals mixed with bronze and gold, the colors a variation of their family sigil. We first meet the late widow Lady Olenna Tyrell, also called the Queen of Thorns because of her witty barbs, in the Season 3 episode Dark Wings, Dark Words. While she dressed modestly, befitting a widow of her age and stature, her silhouette is still in keeping with the Tyrell ladies in waiting, and to a lesser extent her granddaughter Margaery Tyrell. Actor Dame Diana Rigg said of her costume, "The costume is terrific. I don't have to spend hours in makeup, and I'm in a wimple. It's great. I adore it. I absolutely adore it." The Tyrells like to show their wealth and opulence through their clothing, wearing exquisite imported floral silk brocades, luscious silk velvet, and dupioni silk fastened with gold and bronze clasps and fasteners. In the beginning, it's thought that while the Tyrell family color is actually yellow and green, they have toned it down in their dress to come off as less threatening to their former allies, the Lannisters. Olenna wears a fitted and tailored jacket made of a gold brocade fabric and a Wedgwood blue silk taffeta skirt. One of Olenna's hallmarks are her pillbox hats, although the medieval name for it would be called a barbette. This likely indicates that she is a devout and pious woman, at least on the exterior, since what sometimes comes out of her mouth is often in conflict with this. And then the wimple, which is the section that covers her neck, is often, although not always, tucked into the neckline of her jacket. Olenna also wears, like Margaery and Loras, a bronze casting of their family sigil, the Tyrell Rose. Olenna's handcrafted rose embellishment is attached to her jacket with laces. This one is custom made by Steenson's Jewelers in Ireland. Pictured here are Loras's brooch on the top and Margaery's belt on the bottom, taken from Steenson's Jewelers website. So Olenna's is a much more elaborate version of Margaery's, and according to their website it states, each individual petal was rolled and shaped by hand using copper clay. The vinework was formed from brass wire, and a mold was taken from real rosebuds to cast the beautiful silver bud details. You can see how the filters skew the colors, comparing this costume in outdoor light, as we see on the left, to her costume on the right in the Season 3 episode The Climb. The colors look much less vibrant on the right. As a guest at Sansa and Tyrion's wedding in the Season 3 episode Second Sons, Olenna wears this ornately gold and blue brocade coat, featuring an oversized feather plume motif with a contrasting Wedgwood blue silk taffeta full A-line skirt. The Tyrells' blue and gold outfits are in stark contrast to the noble women and men of King's Landing, standing directly behind them and dressed in dark reds and maroons. Olenna's asymmetrical tailored coat, the first of 2 we'll see her wear, has tailored princess seams through the torso that flare out into a cascading skirt, 2-piece fitted set-in sleeves, and an oversized shawl collar feature. The coat is closed with an oversized gold clasp. Olenna wears the same pillbox hat and wimple tucked neatly into the coat collar. In the Season 3 episode Kiss by Fire, Olenna meets with the Master of Coin, Tyrion Lannister. This jacket she's wearing here is structured exactly like her gold one. Costume designer Michelle Clapton is known for her repetition of silhouettes, borrowing from her own designs frequently. So we've seen this in almost every major character from Cersei to Sansa, Marjorie, Littlefinger, and Tyrion. Again, it's a nice juxtaposition between the reds of Tyrion and Pod and Lady Olenna's costume. The production and costume design teams created this color blocking system since day one, although in Season 7 we saw a movement away from this, marking the change of alliances, but also a change to the world as well. The motif of this particular brocade fabric has a bit of a gothic feel to it, in my opinion, with the pattern reminding me of stained glass windows. She's wearing it again in the Season 4 episode 2 Swords. While Olenna's look is more matronly and with much more skin coverage, Olenna's costume mirrors Marjorie's Season 2 outfit. In this close-up shot, you can see that both Olenna and Marjorie's bodices have multiple panels and seaming that create this particular silhouette. We see the shaping to a much lesser degree on the Tyrell ladies-in-waiting. The jacket has an overlapping front closure, A-line circle skirt, and a pleated brown silk sash hanging at the front of her skirt. She's changed into a darker skirt from this Season 5 look. You can't always see it when her wimple is in the way, but the sash is actually wrapped around her neck, is tucked into her bodice, and then hangs loose in the front. I suspect that this was a continuity error because in every other episode her wimple is tucked into her neckline and not the sash. For instance, the wimple covers the brown sash here. You can just see it peeking out ever so slightly. In this shot, as Olenna meets with the High Sparrow in the Season 5 episode The Gift, you can see that the jacket has a bit of a peplum at the back and the skirt has a slight train. The train, while it often indicates wealth by showing you can afford the extra fabric to drag about the floor, also shows that Olenna still holds onto the traditional, while Marjorie and the handmaidens opt for the new look with skirts that just skim the ground. As I've mentioned before, Olenna's pillbox hat, wimple, and veil are her signature look, although we have seen other versions of it on other characters. Both Septa Unella and Septa Mordane wore a simpler version without the pillbox hat of the veil and wimple. On the left is Olenna's headdress from a Game of Thrones exhibit, and on the right is a painted portrait of Queen Anna of Poland from about 1590 by Polish artist Martin Kober. The notes on the painting indicate that the subject is wearing widow's clothing after the death of her husband. The wimple in this case is actually a structured piece worn around her neck. We see the style of headdress in Lithuanian folk costumes as well. This particular style of headdress would have been worn by a married woman. The veil and wimple was a commonly worn headdress in medieval Europe, seen here in a painting from the Morgan Bible. This book depicts customs of 13th century France depicted from a Christian perspective. According to Sarah Thursfield, who is the author of the book The Medieval Tailor's Assistant, she says, "The wimple was a covering for the throat worn by most women in the 13th century. It could be part of the kerchief, or the wimple might be a separate piece and more stylish in its effect. During the 14th century, it gradually went out of general use, being seen mainly on elderly women, widows, and nuns." And in this painting also we see an example of the fillet and barbette. Here are two examples of the veil and wimple depicted with incredible lifelike detail in two paintings by Dutch artist Rogier van der Weyden. The oil on oak wood painting on the left is a section taken from the deposition from circa 1435, and the painted portrait on oak on the right, meanwhile, titled Portrait of a Woman, is from circa 1440. This is the second coat designed by Michelle Clapton, seen in the Season 3 episode And Now His Watch Is Ended. This coat is cut the same way as the one she wore to Tyrion and Sansa's wedding, except that it's closed with two brass clasps instead of one. And she's matched it up the gray base of the brocade with a similarly hued silk taffeta or dupioni silk skirt. Olenna wears it while taking a stroll with Varys. and in this scene, in the grape septa baler, was Cersei. The coat is made from this incredible rose motif cotton and polyester brocade fabric from makers Ribelli called Polifilo Piombo. It has a small percentage of metallized polyester that gives the fabric its luster. This fabric has limited availability, but originally it came in multiple colors, including a black version worn by Marjorie in Season 4. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Olenna wears it again in the Season 4 episode The Lion and the Rose, otherwise known as the Purple Wedding. One shift here is that the wimple is actually tied back under her hair and her chest is exposed, showing a gold necklace. The medieval name for the chin strap that we see here, worn with or without a wimple, is called a barbette. You can see that she is still wearing the chin strap in the episode Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, but the wimple is back to covering her neck and chest. Moving forward, Olenna begins moving away from her house colors and, like Marjorie, opting for more golden tones. The thought behind this is that now that Marjorie is queen and Cersei no longer holds the power that she once knew, they can now embrace that position. Marjorie doesn't need to prove anything anymore, and by association, Olenna doesn't either. Essentially, her work is done. Here is a close-up of this headdress taken from embroidery artist Michelle Carragher's website. Carragher does the majority of the elaborate embroidery and beading and fabric manipulation for the series. Unlike the blue headdress, which had a detachable veil, the embroidery is actually applied directly to this lovely bias-cut silk chiffon veiling. Here's an example where Olenna has moved over to gold brocades in the Season 6 episode Book of the Stranger. This is the first of 3 Lego mutton-style sleeve jackets that she wears. These jackets are more symmetrical. This one's fastened in the front with 3 brass closures. And a metallic gold embroidered rose applique adorns her upper sleeves. She's wearing it again here with a final good dig at Cersei in the episode The Broken Man. This is a new headdress, however, and instead of embroidery, the pillbox hat is embellished with this simple plate metal rose. In the episode Oathbreaker, where Olenna is meeting with the small council, she wears a similarly cut jacket, this one made from a gold embroidered silk fabric. The jacket also has a rose applique, although this one appears to be a fabric applique. Here's a better look at the metal embellishment on her headdress attached directly to the veiling. We saw this kind of metal detailing on 2 of Marjorie's costumes. With her wedding gown, metal appliques were applied to the bodice to echo the pattern of the brocade, and on her lace dress worn for one brief scene after her marriage to Tommen, this swirling metal motif was appliqued to the front section of the bodice. We see Olenna wearing this look again in the episode Blood of My Blood. The jacket is fastened at the center front by some hidden fasteners, likely hooks and eyes, and then embellished by these fancy brass buttons at the front and on the cuffs. And notice that the footmen and behind Olenna are dressed in the same steel blue color of her skirt. Olenna wears this same costume one final time when she meets Marjorie under the scrutiny of Septa Unella in the episode Broken Man. This is actually the last time she'll see any members of her family alive. Olenna arrives in Dorne for a surprising parley arranged by the teleporting Varys in the Season 6 finale, The Winds of Winter. She's in mourning, as we've learned through Cersei and Marjorie, black or near black is a mourning color in Westeros. Through the Middle Ages and Renaissance Europe, black was the color of mourning that dates back to the Roman times. Interestingly, though, however, the color of deepest mourning among medieval European queens was white. Clapton has essentially copied her previous gold jacket, and then she's cut it in a tone-on-tone floral black jacquard fabric and then decorated it with muted brass buttons. It's hard to ascertain the color exactly, but it appears to be a warm black with hints of brown. She does have that one flash of color in her ring, which, by the way, I adore it. Olenna's ring jewelry is always gorgeous. Here's a close-up look at her headdress, this one again taken from Michelle Carragher's website. I'll note that she did wear it once before back in Season 4, shortly after Joffrey's death in the episode Oathkeeper. It's the scene where she all but admits to Marjorie that she was behind Joffrey's death. It's funny that she's wearing this hat with a lighter colored outfit. It's a bit of a sorry, not sorry type of look. Now in season 7, seen here in the episode Stormborn and in conversation with Dany, Olenna has one new outfit for her short time in season 7. Interestingly, she's gone back to her original silhouette, so I'm not sure what that's about, except that perhaps Clapton wanted to keep it clean and simple. The pillbox hat is the same one from season 6. I don't think this costume is black. In fact, I think it's actually chocolate brown. Brown is also the color of mourning in many cultures, and if Olenna had lived on, it's likely that she would have continued to dress in dark colors like brown and grays and blacks. I had a hard time making out the costume in the other episode, but in the Queen's Justice, you can actually see the detail of her jacket, which appears to be a tone-on-tone jacquard fabric with a little bit of sheen. It looks like she is wearing a neck scarf. It actually looks like it's cut from the same fabric as the jacket, and then it's tucked into the bodice and pinned into place at her throat. I will miss Olenna terribly, and when season 8 arrives, it just won't feel the same without her, but I am at least happy that in her final moments, she had the last word. That concludes this episode of Costume Co. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the costumes of Game of Thrones, and if you found value in it, please consider liking and sharing this video out. I'll be back next week with another video, and in the meantime, you can check out this video on the costumes of Marjorie Tyrell. Thank you for spending time with me, and as always, thank you so much for watching.